Misa, I think we can give it one more minute. I know some people are still joining.
Okay, I can't see the participant list, so I'm counting on you.
Yeah, I think we had around 30 people who said they could make it. So we need 5 or more.
Yeah, we can probably wait like a couple more minutes.
Okay, great.
Am I on speaker? I can hear myself, and it's a little weird.
I can hear you.
Okay,
just
it went away. Okay. Oh no, wait. I still hear an echo, so I don't know if I'm on speaker somewhere. Hopefully that stops, because it's hard to speak when you hear yourself at the same time.
Yeah, I think what we can do, if you're not already on mute, folks, you can go ahead and mute yourself. That might help.
Hang on a sec.
Okay, testing. Okay.
Misa, I think we can go ahead and get started, and then people will filter in as they join.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So I guess we can start with introductions, Matt.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. Okay. Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your day to participate in today's webinar. My name is Matt McKinney, and I'm part of the core program evaluation team at ICF. And I also have Mi-Sun Kwan from the Council for Aid to Education, also known as CAE. And together we'll be discussing the upcoming College and Work Readiness Assessment, which is probably what you've heard, the CWRA Plus that will be taking place this spring at your school. So Mi-Sun, let's go ahead and go to the agenda, and I'll talk through that a little bit. Thanks. So we have a lot to cover in the next 45 minutes. So I'll just start by saying that really the overarching goal of this webinar is to provide you all with the necessary knowledge to administer the CWRA for your students at your school. The data that is collected from this assessment really plays a huge role in the evaluation of the core program. And by doing this webinar, we hope that we just want to make sure that you all feel supported throughout the process and make sure that you all feel equipped to handle the responsibility, because without you, we want to be able to collect this data and provide an overall comprehensive evaluation. So with that said, I think we can move and just talk about a few of the couple things that are on this meeting goal list. The first is just, I'll take a few minutes and talk about the importance of the CWRA Plus as it pertains to the evaluation, and show a couple of examples of what will be included in the assessment. We'll also talk and actually spend a majority of the webinar reviewing more in depth what the CWRA is, as well as trying to familiarize all of you with the interface of the assessment. And Mi-Sun will be leading that and providing a tutorial on what you can expect over the next couple months when you administer the assessment to your students. And then we'll wrap up the presentation by going over next steps, some upcoming dates, and then answering any questions that you may have. And before we continue, I just want to let you know, as Mi-Sun is presenting her tutorial and kind of showing you the interface of the assessment, feel free to use the chat function in this webinar, and as you type in your questions, I will relay that to Mi-Sun, because right now I think everyone is on mute. But then once we get to the Q&A at the end, if you want to ask a question live, that's totally fine. So I think we can move on to the first topic. Yes, perfect. Thank you, Mi-Sun. So before we dive into the actual assessment and the tutorial, I just want to share with you all a brief summary of why the CWRA is so important. From an evaluation perspective, the CWRA assessment, it really provides that crucial data which helps the evaluation understand the impact that CORE is having at all of your schools. So in that regard, the data collected through the assessment helps us not only understand how students are improving over time at each of your schools, but it also helps us learn about the differences in impact between both the treatment and control schools in the randomized control trial that we're doing. So in this slide, you'll see a table with some examples of the Likert type questions that we'll be asking students. So really it kind of ranges from student engagement, self-efficacy, non-cognitive, and Mi-Sun will talk a little bit more on some of those different topics. So with that said, I do want to have most of the time on this webinar for Mi-Sun to talk about the actual logistics behind the assessments. So I will go ahead and hand it over to you, Misa.
Okay, thank you, Matt. So I just want to give an overview of the CWRA Plus. It stands for the College and Work Readiness Assessment, and it began in 2006 as a high school version of our CLA, the Collegiate Learning Assessment. We have over 200 schools that participate yearly, and it measures college and career readiness through tasks that mimic authentic real-life scenarios. It's taken completely online and managed online, and it's taken online through a secure browser. Testing is supported on computers, desktops, laptops, Windows, Mac, and Chromebooks through a free app that you can download. And the total test time from start to finish should be roughly around 45 minutes. That includes some time for setup. The actual assessment itself, students have 30 minutes to go through the questions. So we have 25 questions in total, and there are 3 sections. Each section has its own document, as you will see. And the 3 sections are scientific and quantitative reasoning. There's 10 questions there. Critical reading and evaluations, another 10 questions. And then critique and argument, which is 5 questions. And as I mentioned, each set of questions has its own unique document that students will need to read through and answer questions for. Okay, so I am going to go through a walkthrough. So a couple of notes on core testing for the CWRA Plus. So in addition to the actual assessment, there is a motivation survey and demographic questions at the very end that students need to answer. And in addition to that, there are survey questions at the very end after the demographic questions that the students need to answer as well. And throughout this entire process, I'm available to answer any questions, and even after, if you can let me know when you're done testing so I can go through and just make sure that everything looks good on my end, just follow up with any students that I see that haven't tested or maybe are no longer at your school. So here are the 2 main websites that you will be using. We call them the Proctor interface and the student interface. The URLs are right there, and I will be providing this information in an email as well, which I might be mentioning later. So those are the 2 websites. So the Proctor interface is where you will go to actually manage all your testing, and then the student interface is where students will go to download the secure browser. If you are a new user, please let me, if you haven't administered a test before, please let me know and I will make sure I have an account set up for you. If you have administered the test previously, you still are able to log in with the same information that you used last year. But if you are a new user and I create an account for you, please look for an email like this. It comes from support@testsys.com. When you request, I'll probably remind you to take a look at your spam folder just in case. But this email will have, once again, the URLs to the Proctor interface, your email address, and then the initial password that you will use to log in. And when you log in, you will be asked to create a new password as well as provide some additional information. So I will be sending a welcome email in early February with all this information, and this will include information on the rosters, so the students that you'll need to test this spring. To help with the re-entry process, because these students have tested either last year or the year before, 2 years ago, we do ask that they sign in with the same information, that is the same username that they used previously. I will be providing a PDF that will have nice little squares like this that you can cut out and distribute to your students. It has the username that they need to use to log in. So that solves any problems on that and with any confusion with the usernames. Okay, so on the day of testing, here are some steps that you'll be going through as the proctor and what the student will be going through. So on the day of testing, you log on to the Proctor interface and you create your test session. And you distribute that test session number to your students. And as students submit their profile information or sign in with that username, they'll appear in the waiting for approval table, and then you approve the students into the assessment. On the student end, they go to the student interface and download the secure browser. If it's already downloaded, they can actually just open it if it's located somewhere like their desktop. Enter that test session number, enter the email address and date of birth, wait for approval, do the actual CWRA Plus, which is the selected response questions, do the student motivation and demographic questions, and the additional custom questions I mentioned. So this is the student page where they enter their email address, and then for all students should be returning, they should have an account on our system with that email address, they'll click, yes, I have registered, and they need to submit their date of birth. If there's any issues with the date of birth that in their system is not matching up with the date of birth that the student is their actual date of birth, I'll show you a way to double check what is in our system. Okay, so this is our tech page, and I'm actually going to wander away from this presentation. I was going to do a demo, but I ran into some some problems while I was trying to do that. So we're going to adapt and do it a different way, which I have some screenshots I can show, but this is the Proctor interface right here. Right now it's branded to our CLA, but it's the same website, it's just branded differently. So this is the Proctor interface when you log in. We've had an update this past month, and we're kind of slowly updating our guides and all our materials, but we used to have a menu on the left, but now we have this navigation ribbon on the top. Same menu items, just different location. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the Proctor interface. So here we have the home page. We have a table that explains each of the components. We have the students page, students component, which you can go in and see every student that has ever tested within your school. We have test administrations. This shows all the past and current administrations that you have. You should only have one active one, and they should be at least 2 more if you participated in the 2013 grant, but this is where you view that information. And remember when I was talking about birthdays not matching up? I have gone in and imported rosters for all your schools. So if you actually just drill into one of these, there should be only one. If you drill into the roster, it'll have all the information, and the date of birth are listed right here. So you can actually download this list and keep it handy. So if, let's say, a student's logging in and their birthday's not matching up, have them use whatever birthday is listed here, and we can go in and fix that after in the system. So this is where you will go, and you can actually see a list of all the students that are supposed to test at your school this spring. So test delivery. This is actually where you will go on the day of testing to conduct your, to create your test sessions that I was talking about. Test sessions need to be made day of. They can't be made the day before because they expire at the end of each day. And you can see some of these past sessions I have here while I was trying to go through and make sure I could do this today, and then I ran into some issues. But you can name your test session anything that you like. I prefer naming it something that helps you organize your testing, or for you to see the group of students that are actually in your session. You can make as many sessions as you like. You can make one for the day and just continue to use it, but you do need to make one, at least one per day. So I'm just going to name this, if you can remember some high school classes or something in the chemistry. Okay, so there should only be one test administration listed. I have 2 here because I was trying to do some testing on this. And you hit create session. So this is your test session page, and you see the test session number right here. This is the number that you'll relay to your students. And as they go through and enter the assessment, they'll appear in this table, and there'll be a link here for you to approve them into the system. And when you do, they'll drop down into this approved table. So if I go back right now to, you can hit return or hit test delivery. You'll see my session right here in my old sessions. You can drill into these sessions and see what students have tested. And as I said, you can make as many as you like. So I can make another one right now. If I could spell. And here we have another test session with a new test session number. So this test session number essentially acts as a key and links the student to this test session. Okay, so at this point I was planning to go through and actually log in as a student, but I was receiving some errors while I was doing that in our staging environment. Everything's working fine in our actual production environment. but let me show, I cleaned up my desktop a little, so it's not going to look terrible. Here I have some icons that show our secure browser. So if you download the secure browser and save it to the desktop, you can avoid going to the student interface, and students can actually just double click this and launch the secure browser. And when they do, the very first thing they see is if I can spell, this right here. So as you see, the very first thing students are prompted for is their test session number. And from here, I'm actually going to navigate away and go to another PowerPoint because I was having some problems. Okay, so this is an older PowerPoint that presentation I used for the 2013 grant actually. Sorry, I'm just taking a sip of water. So here we have, this is actually nice because you see both the proctor and the student interfaces. So students will enter that digit, the test session number here, and hit submit. And then immediately the next thing they see you recognize is login page. So students will enter their email address and then indicate, yes, I have registered. So as soon as students submit that profile information, they'll start appearing this waiting for approval table right here. And you see there's two options to approve students. You can actually do it individually or hit approve all. It doesn't make a difference which one you use. If you have like 10 students, hitting approve all might be easier. And as soon as you hit approve, they drop down to this approve table. On the student end, as they're waiting to be approved, they see this screen right here. It's just their name and a please wait little wheel. And as soon as they're approved, this is the next screen they see. So here we see the two students. We have Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. They both dropped down to approved table now. And this is the very first thing that the student sees. And to start the test, they just hit start online. Okay, so when they hit start online, they're going to see a nice little overview. Here we have it lists a performance test. Core schools are not doing that, so they're going to see the 30 minutes for the selected response questions. And here, this is a nice little feature. You can actually track how students are doing and where they are in the test. And you might be reading some of these right now. I want to say these are pretty much still correct. I didn't have a chance to read through them before this presentation because I was trying to come up with a solution to my problem very quickly. So there is a tutorial right before the assessment that kind of goes over the way that the interface works and just some of the features of it. And here you can see that the location that the students are in. I do want to note that there is a timer on this as well as the actual assessment. If students are distracted by that, they can actually click it and a nice little clock icon will appear where it hides it. And the actual time will reappear when there are about maybe 5 minutes or so left on the timer. So here's a nice little screenshot of the navigating through the selected response questions. It kind of goes over each button and what it does. And then here we have the start of the selected response question. So here we can see this is a demo, so there's only 4 questions, but you can see the location that the student's in. It would say 1 out of 25 in the actual test. And the layout's always the same. The questions are on the left, and then the document is on the right. When they reach the end, they'll see this review screen. And as I mentioned here, there are some features here where you can go back and review questions. If the actual letter responses that the students choose would be in this your answer spot instead of this red square, and they can actually go back to each question by clicking on it as well. So if I hit this 3 right here, it would actually bring me back to question 3, and if I want to change my answer, I'm able to. And then if they want to get back to this review screen quickly, they can actually hit the review all button and it'll bring them back here. And as soon as students are done, they'll hit mark complete. And here you can actually see your answer and there is a pop-up that appears that once they hit OK, they cannot return to the question. Okay. So here are the demographic questions and the motivation questions. And then these are additional survey questions at the very end. And then they're done, and when they reach this screen, they reach the conclusion of the test, and they can hit close.
Hey, Misun, we had a question come in.
Okay.
Is this still only English and math subjects?
So there are, like I mentioned, there's 3 sections. So it's not really English and math per se. Let me find a slide. So there really isn't math involved. If there's any math, it's very basic math. Students can have scratch paper with them, but it needs to be collected and disposed of at the end of testing.
Great. And we had another question come in. Is this available for Windows computers only, or can students use Chromebooks?
Chromebooks can be used. There's just an app that needs to be downloaded. If you are planning to use Chromebooks, just give me a heads up and I can provide a guide on how to set up the Chromebooks.
Great. I think we're caught up on questions so far, so if you want to continue.
Okay, sorry, I'm like losing my voice for some reason. Okay. Oh, okay. So sorry, I just want to get back to this slide because this is where I ended. So we do have tech support available. It's available actually during regular business hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That is Eastern time. You can also contact me, but there are times where I might not be able to provide you with a solution. I might actually have you contact our tech support instead. If you, for whatever reason, call on the weekend, they will get back to you the next business day. And there is an email address for our tech support as well. So this is actually our vendor that provides this tech support. So they can help solve most issues, but if you want to ask me first, I'm more than happy to try to help you first. If I can't, I will probably get in touch with our vendor to find a solution to a problem. Okay, so the timeline, Matt.
Yeah, and thank you, Misun, for going over all that. I know it's a lot of content. For those of you listening, we definitely don't want you to feel overwhelmed. We're going to do everything that we can to help you feel supported, and we'll get into a little bit that here soon. Before that, you know, the timeline. Yeah, oh, go ahead, Misun.
I was just going to say, when I send out the email, there will be PDF guides available as well. And I forgot to mention, let me backtrack for a second, Matt. We do have a website on our own CAE.org website that has all this information, as well as some guides and videos right here, as well as a testing plan, which we will ask each school to submit. Just ask for your name, like the main coordinator at the school, the name, email address, just your planned testing date so we can have an idea of when you're planning to test, and your testing numbers as well. And this will be the URL to this. It's a little bit longer, but it's just cae.org/core, and I will provide this URL in the welcome email as well. Great. Okay. So it's just doing that strange thing again.
So as far as the timeline, there's a few dates that are coming up here in the next few weeks that we want everyone to be mindful of. In exactly 2 weeks, actually on Wednesday, February 5th, Misun will be sending that electronic list of students to be tested at your school. So you'll be receiving that from Misun directly. And this will be in the form of how Misun just said it in a welcome email. So it'll include the assessment dates, a test administration guide, and a link to submit your testing plan to CAE. And I want to emphasize the testing plans and how important that is because the farther we know in advance when you plan on testing students, the better that we can do in helping you. You'll see that we'll be hosting every Monday once testing starts on February 17th. Every Monday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time, Misan and I will be on a conference line that you're more than welcome to join, and we can answer any questions real time using that. So again, getting those testing plans on February 10th will definitely help Misan and her team at CAE better help you all. So we definitely encourage you all to complete those as soon as you can after talking with your other core team members. And the testing window, like I said, it'll start on February 17th and it will go until Thursday, April 30th. And I know this year it might be a little bit more crazy than past years because we are testing 11th and 12th graders, and we understand that there's going to be a lot of end-of-year assessments going on. So again, we just encourage you to be conscientious of getting those testing plans in and getting this done, because again, it is very important for the evaluation that we collect this data from as many students as we can. Misan, is there anything that you want to add as far as timeline?
No, I think you've hit everything.
Okay.
Looks like we have a question though.
Yeah, and yep, so there's a couple on recordings. We are recording this right now, so we'll be sending it sometime either tomorrow or Friday. So if you came in late and you didn't get the first part, or you need to go back and confirm some things, you will definitely have that recording available to you by the end of this week. Great, so I think we're caught up on questions right now. I think we're a little bit ahead of schedule, Misan, so I guess we can move to the Q&A portion and open it up for discussion. We did want to include some main questions that we were anticipating. So as you can see, we have a few that are already listed. And I think
yes, so these are curated just from past test administrations that we've had. So the first one being, what happens if you need to update your testing plan dates? You don't need to resubmit your testing plan. You can just email me with your new dates. If a student's unable to log in with the email address listed on the proctor interface and testing ticket, this is in reference to the birth date. Just double check that the student is typing in the email address correctly, and then reference the birthday that the student is trying to input and the one that is showing up on the roster. And if all else fails, you can contact me or tech support. What happens if a student needs to restart their test for whatever reason? This really depends on if the student needs to restart right away, or if you just want them to stop and try again another day. The best thing to do is to have the student stop, because we are going to have the student start again from the beginning. So have them stop and give me a call or send me an email. Usually I'm in front of my computer, so I will see emails come in. And if you're done testing, what do? Please send me an email just letting me know so I can go through and just check that everything looks good, and just follow up with you if I have any questions about the roster and the number of students that tested. So it looks like there might have been, I saw some pop-ups on, I'm not sure, some questions came in, Matt.
Yeah, I'm reading them. So like I said, the recordings will be made available to all regional university partners, and each person who may not have been able to make the call, or if you came in late today, that's fine. We'll be sending a recording out. We have another question. Does every student on our roster need to test? And yes, every student on your roster needs to be tested. And like I said, Misan, you're going to be sending out that list directly to each school team. Yes.
And this list was put together just from the past test sessions the last 2 years. If any student if you look at it and you recognize students are no longer your school, just let me know which students they are so I can just record them. And so when I have folks asking me why your school said they're done testing, but they're missing X amount of students, I can say, well, those students are no longer enrolled in the school. So yes.
Okay, I think you answered one of the latest questions, so thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions, just based on what you've heard the past half hour, or anything you can think of? I think we're all caught up. And again, here's our contact information. So like I said, Misan, she works at CAE. She's been doing this for, I think, a little while, so she's pretty proficient. And we'll be able to tell you if you have any questions on anything, she can point you in the right direction. And if you have any questions about the evaluation, you can reach out to myself. This is my email and my office phone number. And oh, we just received a new question. Where and how would you like to receive the updated roster? I don't know who that is, but I would say reach out to your RUP. I'm not sure what school they're from, but yes, you definitely need to communicate that to your RUP, and then they can cut that, and then ICF will receive it from the RUP. Okay, so I think we're good on questions. So unless there's any other questions, I think we're good, and we can end a little bit early and give people 15 minutes back in their day. So thank you very much, everybody. You all have a great afternoon and a great rest of your week.
I hope I just saw something else pop up.